right, folks, this is Lawrence with another edition of Fellowship of the Father, and we are going to talk about let go of my ego. Let go of my ego. So, the reason why that crazy title is there is because back in the 70s, we used to have a commercial about Eggo waffles. And these waffles, they'd come out, they were circular. Remember, we talk about the circle all the time, right? So they were circular and they came out of the toaster. And then two people from each side of the table, breakfast table, would grab hold of this one single Eggo waffle. And they say, let go of my ego. Let go of my ego. And so when you start studying this stuff out, you start running across patterns and you're trying to get to the bottom of the truth, and you start realizing that a lot of this stuff is symbolic, then you begin to realize that what they're trying to depict is an ego battle between these two people, right? So what is the ego? What is the ego, and should we let go of it in the first place? Is it a good thing? And is it a bad thing? What is it? So just like every other thing that can go a little haywire, so say like sexual desires or like alcohol. Like you can drink alcohol in a healthy way and never really get addicted to it, or you could become heavily addicted to it. But somehow, for some reason, we have been enabled to learn how to make alcohol, and we deal with the fact that we have alcohol. So with that comes positive and negative attributes. So like the positive attribute of alcohol is if you drink one glass of wine, it can calm you down. The Bible says that that widows can calm their soured stomachs down by drinking alcohol, right? So, or drinking wine, I believe it is, fermented drink. So, and a lot of Christians will say that when they say wine in the Bible, it's not pertaining to fermented drink. I don't personally believe that, but you'll have to look into that. But so there's one instance of whether something that we're allowed to have can be good or bad spiritually, right? And biblically, probably more accurately to state that. So let's talk about ego. So what is ego? You think about ego, I think of the word pride comes into play often. So when I was attending church regularly, what they would say often is, are you being prideful right now? Or are you being prideful? Are you full of pride? Are you all the way to the top with your pride? And so you would humble out like a whooped dog at that point. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm being prideful. And now they get to say like, okay, now I need you in on this study, or I need you to help move this person. I need you to, and they start appealing to that servant in you, that ultimately spiritual slave, right? Like we have a hard time understanding this concept of where servitude ends and slavery begins. And so I believe you're supposed to serve your fellow man. I believe that communities do better when people are serving each other, and there's a touch, a little bit of socialism, that little bit of serving the community and taking some of your resources and giving them over to other people because you have enough. However, that can come at a cost if you do too much of it. If you get too indulgent in indulging other people, if you get some kind of kick from serving people, you could start to lose yourself in that concept. So that's where the ego says this. The ego says, look, one way or another, I need to survive, right? Look, there's an animal outside my hut. And if I don't have my ego, if I don't have my self-preservation, if I don't survive, then the human race is no longer going to survive. So this is built into our DNA, guys. This ego. It's not selfish people versus unselfish people. It's levels of a selfishness. It's your level of selfishness. If you start saying like, this feels really good, being all about self-preservation, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, me. It's about my self-preservation. How about me? That's none of my business. It's zero, none of my business. I don't care about you. It's about me. Oh, it's about my family too, because they have my last name and my legacy, right? And so that's where ego gets sticky, and it's moved into the negative category. So the trick of growing up as a man in the United States is that we have so much opportunity, we have so much going on, and so many flavors that we can experience. We go into a grocery store, and there's literally 40 different kinds of adult cereal and 60 different kinds of kids cereal, and you're just looking around like, wow. And you start to get numb to everything. It's like, I'll just grab this. And you're not necessarily in that thankful attitude. You're just like self-preservation. Just got to get the grocery out this grocery store. If I can make it past the cashier and not be bugged for anything else, it's self-preservation, self-preservation, self-preservation. And so this is where the ego is a tricky thing. So the Bible says that if you don't give up everything and follow Jesus, that you cannot be his disciple, right? So it implies that it's good to give up a lot of things. At the same time, the same Bible says, whoever hated himself. After all, whoever hated himself. So you got to be careful not to disregard yourself and throw yourself away and throw the baby out with the bathwater as you're trying to get rid of the negative aspects of, say, like ego. And you got to balance that out a bit. So like, I was talking about the great I am principle, the I am principle, where you're not better than the person next to you. You're not worse than the person next to you. You are a soul. Your soul is invaluable in a meat suit that's very perishable. So you're both zero and you're everything simultaneously in this existence. You mean everything to God, and really God doesn't need you. But you mean everything to him, and that's kind of really, isn't that what the Bible says in the New Testament? It says you're a filthy rag, and it also says you're a jewel in the crown of God's crown, right? You're the jewel in God's crown. So how can you be both those things? Because you're a soul and you're perishable. Those are the two things that you are. So if you could relate to those two things simultaneously while you're dealing with your ego, then you could realize that you are special. Everyone's a rock star, and everyone's the guy in the audience staring at the rock star, which makes us equal to each other, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's a place that you could go in your mind when you're wondering, how do I manage my ego? Is this a healthy ego? Do I have a healthy sense of pride? Am I a patriot? Or do I think that the United States is the only game in town and everyone else sucks? Or is it more like, I love the United States, I want to preserve it. It's like, let's fix that. And then we can move on to fixing some other things as well. And to me, that's a healthy route to go. So that's my play on the ego and how you can balance it out. So the answer to the question, should you let go of your ego? No. Should you manage your ego? Absolutely. You should have a certain level of pride, but no more than that level of pride. And when you see yourself sliding away from those moments of humility, then you got to find your way back somehow. You got to take on a different course. So that's my play on let go of my ego. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And this is Lawrence with Fellowship of the Father. And if you did like it, like, share, and subscribe. I'm attempting to get to 100 subscribes or 1,000 subscribes. And if you could help me to do that, I'd really appreciate it. Until then, this is Lawrence with Fellowship of the Father, and I will talk to you later. Bye bye.